All right, everyone, welcome back to our little show, little corner of the world. Joining us from all over the world, I can see. So medyo perfect yung timing ito kasi yung kaibigan natin from Florida to Los Angeles to Berlin, all of us can join us. So this is a perfect time. And today we have very special guests. As I said, all our guests are special, but this is a person who is an institution in a very important field, especially relevant to our discussion today. So later on, pag-usapan natin itong 19 points collapse in Sara Duterte's satisfaction rating per SWS. Obviously, I'm sure marami na naman nagagalit sa akin because pinatrending ko yung plans daw to impeach Sara. So I'm gonna get into a lot of trouble and I'm gonna get my guests also into a lot of trouble. But before that, gusto ko medyo ontological, pedagogical. Let's go back to the art of PR and populism and all of this kasi we live in the age of Trump. We live in the age of populism. Kaya today we're joined by a very good friend of mine. I regret that I didn't have him earlier here, but regular naman siya sa kabilang channel, so I'm sure a lot of you have heard from him. But I want to make sure that people also hear it on our platforms. Ito. We have with us Alan Herman, but Herman is written in German. Alan, bakit German? Is there a German connection there?
Well, just like your audience, no? We are global. We are all over the world.
So kung
Kailangan gawing konting...
ako para House of Targaryen, ikaw naman Herman.
Okay, diba?
Yeah.
Targaryen, diba? You know, you gotta add a little class to it.
Yeah,
But
I know, my friend.
don't let the foreign sounding name fool you, just like Prof. Richard, no? Who is down to earth guy, di ba? Kung papakinggan mo yung pangalan, Richard Haydarian, ba, you gotta get dressed in your top hat and your petticoat. But the guy is actually the most down to earth fellow you'll ever meet, no? Kami mga Herman, mga taga Batangas kami, so mga taga Binyan Laguna pala. So we are Filipino sa isip.
That's
Puso,
it.
diba?
Baguio boy here. Proud Baguio boy here. Ilocano. Hindi lang down to earth. Medyo economic din. Just in case. Sabi na baka afam to. Magastos to. Hindi. All right, Alan. There's a lot to discuss. Obviously, let's discuss a little bit the Sara Duterte fallout. Obviously, this was expected perhaps, especially in light of the PR disaster that their team visited upon them amid a bigger disaster, natural disaster the other week. But gusto kong balikan itong mga fundamentals and basics. And as I said, our show is not just an interview. I don't primarily consider myself a journalist, although I do journalism. This is really a conversation between two friends on the art of populism and politics. So, I want to go to this. Since international naman tayong pareho, let's talk about Evita. Evita is an interesting show because if you look at the Evita show, Donald Trump was obsessed with it. Some would say he watched it at least 6 to 7 times on Broadway. Some would say even 10 to 11 times. Margaret Thatcher was also obsessed with it. I'm being obsessed with Evita and Peron because my sense is the Perons, and especially Evita, they invented modern populism. And modern populism, in a sense, that's a tingin ko very relevant in the Philippines because, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, Imelda Marcos sounds to me like the Evita of Asia, right? This, rags to riches story, and yet very relatable. And what I appreciate about the intervention by the Cambridge political scientist David Runciman, he said, if you look at these people, it is not really art of authenticity because they're not really authentic. A lot of these people are performative, glitzy and glamour and all of that. It's more of the art of connection. So you have this weird situation whereby someone who's living in a gilded mansion is more relatable to folks than those middle-class activista or even yung mga talagang mukhang proletariat na activista. And this has always been a mystery to a lot of people in history, in journalism, among others. But you are a PR man, Alan. Tell me, why does the Evita, the Imelda, and nowadays the Trumpian gilded populist brand of politics, why is it so successful from a PR standpoint?
First, let me dovetail your points. Now, that's Santa Evita to you, my friend. She was considered a saint, and in many parts, no, she's considered a saint, an actual living saint. Santa Evita, ang tawag sa kanya. There's, in fact, very mythical yung nangyari sa corpse niya, di ba? that became a worldwide phenomenon when they took her corpse, and it was missing for decades. But okay. To go into that, why does this Evita populism work? Ano yan eh? Kasi diba, there are three kinds of candidates and they go through cycles. There is the gut candidate, So who is the gut candidate? When you see the gut candidate, you say, idol, I want to be like that guy. Nandiyan na si idol. Star power, pure star power. You want to take a selfie with this person. You want to buy this person a beer. This person never needs to pay for a meal in their whole lives. Wherever they go, dinudumog, pinapalakpakan. Yan yung gut candidate. And then there's the heart candidate. Who is the heart candidate? This is relatability play ito. Nakikiisa to sa akin. This person went through what I am going through. This person knows my daily struggles. This person looks like me, walks like me, talks like me. We think of former President Jojo Binay as the perhaps the very epitome of this heart candidate. No, even Rodrigo Duterte, PRRD is that, di ba?
And the gut
Eating.
is more like a kind of Obama, charismatic, suave, guapings,
Ah,
matalino type, yeah? I didn't
correct.
want to
And
say Maros because I'll get into trouble. I want to say someone else, I'll get into trouble. I just said Obama na lang.
okay, Richard, Mar Rojas, do you think Mar Rojas ever went into a mall and people started clapping and people started taking sa? Don't get me wrong, Sec Mar is one of my dearest and closest friends and one of my idols, if I'm being honest. But seriously, did that guy ever enter a restaurant and did
Does he
somebody
go to a
buy
mall?
him?
Mall is
Yeah,
for us. You know what they call them? People. Like
yeah.
ordinary people. Yeah.
Nobody clapped, nobody, di ba? It doesn't elicit that eh. So that's the third type of candidate. Si Sekmar would be the head candidate. Ang head candidate, yan yung may solution to. May plano. My life will improve because this guy has programs and has a master plan, a roadmap to make my life better. Unfortunately, we are in the era of the gut candidate squarely. Globally, it's a global phenomenon. That's why you have seen the return of populist, very, very fire and brimstone type candidates. Kasi gut candidate ngayon ang usong-uso. We're just leaving the era of the heart candidate. We're entering into that gut candidate, and sadly, sa Pilipinas, well, I don't want to say sa Pilipinas because it was a global pandemic, but it was exacerbated by the pandemic. Because what happened during the pandemic, and perhaps this is another discussion we should have on another day, Richard, over meals and drinks, no? But what happened is,
Let's give a teaser. Go ahead.
yeah, nagkaroon ng ano eh, medyo nagkaroon ng culture of mendicancy tayo eh. During the pandemic, we were so used to the citizenry got used to AIX, tupad, MAIP, ayuda. So it's that. It became you're no longer looking for a leader. I'm looking for somebody to give me sadly the word is dole out. I'm looking for somebody to give me dole outs. I'm looking for somebody to give me quick gratification. So
But also,
nawala na
Alan, also it's the sense of this is apocalypse. Everything is, falling apart. We need a kind of an aggressive, decisive leader to hold it together, right? There's also this sense of panic and apocalypse, right? Which helps
absolute
got like kind of candidates or politicians.
patron ang hinahanap natin ngayon, patron. Yung exactly that. The world is collapsing. Follow me. Of course, a lot of our viewers have probably and listeners have watched The Walking Dead, di ba? These are the kinds of guys who will thrive during in apocalyptic situations, di ba? Sina governor, yeah, di ba? Yung mga yan who really use their over the top, larger than life personalities to build that kind of almost cult-like following, and you would know what a cult-like following is capable of, Richard, when you earn their ire, di ba?
Yeah, had that more. But I would say, as someone who comes from Baguio and the loyalist, solid North world, I've known them from the moment of birth. I was almost born in Marcos Highway, hindi pa nakabot sa hospital yata yung mommy ko. So don't worry. Like the solid South was like, I've been there, done that. I know what's going on here, diba? And now we're of course back to square one, essentially with Marcos Jr. there. So what you're saying here, Alan, that Alan Herman. The reason I'm telling your name is just because for some of the folks who are still just joining us, Alan. So what you're saying is that structurally we live in an era that is more favorable. I think fertile soil, no, for the more gut-like populist strongman kind of figures. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. We don't want to learn how to fish. We don't want to be taught how to fish. We want to be given the fish. Give me the fish, damn it. I don't want somebody, if somebody's preaching inclusive leadership, sustainable growth, let's all band together and hand in hand, side by side, march towards progress. Doesn't appeal to our current electorate, unfortunately. It's fix my electricity, give me cheaper goods and services, and give me handouts, sadly.
So I'm going to approach this like economies, right? Supply side, demand side. Demand side meaning in terms of voters, what they're looking for. Supply side in terms of what populists provide, communication strategy. Let's kind of do both of them. From below, to what degree is the information ecosystem determinative? Because if you look at it objectively, Filipinos are wealthier than ever in terms of per capita income. We have the biggest middle class in the entire history of the Philippines. Our middle class is as big as the entire population of Malaysia or Australia. We're no longer a poor country. We're about to be an upper middle income country, and so on and so forth. And yet, when you talk to people all around the world, even in very wealthy countries, right? Everyone feels they're poorer than before. Everyone feels things are falling apart. Everyone thinks there's war around the corner. When it's like, did we just forget World War I, World War II, Cold War, a lot of horrible things. So I think we also live in an information ecosystem that makes us more paranoid, more aware of crisis, almost in a panic mode. And I think that's where also conspiracy theory come in, and also this sense of we need someone to hold the line and keep things together, right? I mean, I think the information ecosystem is perhaps also influencing voters' approach.
You nailed it right on the head, no? Because growing up, of course, you're younger than I am, but I'd like to include you as a member of my general generation, di ba? We grew up with how many channels, our media, the media that we consume was so limited. But now, holy cow, you scroll through how many of your social media channels, and whereas before you'd get maybe 3 to 4 pieces of bad news around the world in a week. Now you're getting about 300 to 400 things to bemoan about, and to be saddened about, and to be worried about a day. So kasama yon, you're absolutely right. It's that overwhelming sense of the Gen Xers can relate. Kasi di ba yung mga Gen X, we grew up under the shadow of the bomb. Anytime the bomb can
Sorry,
fall.
I'm millennial, medyo older millennial, but sige, I can relate.
Yeah. Read your and you're a student and a fan of history. You're a great consumer of history, Prof. Richard. So you would know the zeitgeist during Gen X. Ganun eh. So medyo parang nauulit 'yun.
Yes, and obviously, I think our friends Maria Ressa and others have also very ably emphasized how the algorithm, you have this kind of algorithmic trap, right? When you go down rabbit hole, kung may tinignan kang crisis, next thing you know, the algorithm on your platform keeps on recommending similar things. So, yun na naging mundo mo, yun na yung mundo mo.
On a ridiculous level. Take out your tinfoil hats, listeners. Let's all wear our tinfoil hats together. But yes, Big Brother is listening. You click on something, that's it. You will be inundated. There's about 6,000 data points at any given time that can curate your content for you. So yeah, you do get inundated. There's a confirmation bias. So if you just happen to be consuming bad news, you will get a steady stream of it for sure.
Now, before we go into how populists also are not invincible, sometimes they could make a mistake, they could come back with permutations, among others. Let's also talk about the fact that the other side of this equation, the anti-populist forces, they're not also too unsuccessful, right? I mean, I can look at Spain, I can look at Brazil, you can look at the US, at least in 2020. There are a couple of cases whereby actually the anti-populist forces were able to defeat the populist forces. What do you think helped them? Did they also engage in their own version of populism, but let's say a more progressive version, right? I mean, you also have people like Bernie Sanders, a more progressive version of populism who's not doing too bad. Mélenchon in the case of France, for instance, right? So AOC, also, I mean, so
Right.
it's not like it's just like the right-wing strongmen, tatay type or winning. It looks like, sometimes the liberals also are doing not too bad, and sometimes the leftist or progressive version of populism. So what are they getting right? How are they adjusting to the moods of the moment?
Well, that's what we call in our discipline the anchor snap. Now, if you think of an anchor and an elastic band that you're pulling and stretching, So sometimes the populists, the super right-wing conservatives, for example, and I'm just using that as an example, they just get stretched out so much that the people yearn, and when you let that go, snap, it goes back to the anchor. So that's what they take advantage of. And it's very interesting to our listeners, I'm sure, they did notice that si Prof. Richard was able to mention so many countries except the Philippines. Now, why doesn't that work in the Philippines? Kasi wala tayong strong party system. All of the candidates are saying the same thing. Unlike in other countries, countries that you mentioned, people actually vote on issues. They're able to polarize people effectively because they're actual issues. Dito sa Pilipinas, wala eh. Generic yung mga sinasabi ng mga kandidato.
The reason I'm saying this, Alan Herman, Alan, is because I keep on hearing like, okay, yes, disinformation always is a problem. We are victims of disinformation. I can tell you all about stories of I being victim of disinformation. But the thing is, the reason I'm explaining why in other countries, or I mention other countries, is because in those countries also you have disinformation. If you look at a lot of proxies for disinformation, it's as bad as in Peru, Brazil, South Africa. I can go India. Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yeah.
and yet, someone even more coniotic than Mar Rojas or me, like Rahul Gandhi in
Is
India.
there somebody more coniotic than
More
you?
conyotic. Rahul Gandhi, half Italiano, from the Gandhi family, always, like this pogi guy and Tisoy and all of that. He was. He did so well. He doubled the share of the opposition. This is the Congress Party. Ito yung parang version nilang Liberal Party. Gandhis are obviously parang Aquinos of the Philippines, or rather the other way around. Everyone dismissed this guy. They said this guy has no charisma. He's conyotic. He's a Cambridge guy. Wala siyang touch, common touch. And then he kind of reinvented himself. He wore this Indian stuff, even his accent. I noticed his accent before was more British, and then suddenly it became more, more folksy. And then pumunta siya sa mga sulok ng India and nag-listening tour siya. Wow, it worked. And now they're talking about Rahul Gandhi, who's just 53, 54, as potentially the next prime minister of India. He's already the leader of the opposition. So you had a guy who was a kind of a head guy, no gut, some would question even his heart. Now suddenly he kind of put everything together. He's suddenly competitive. I'm throwing out this example because, well, as you said, wala tayong masyadong examples here. But maybe we can talk about Vico Soto or even Rizal Ontiveros, who to a certain degree are also quite successful heart or head candidates who kind of have this kind of a gutty, folksy appeal to, right? I mean, I'm throwing out these things because I want to show that the world is beyond just saying it's disinformation. While you're correct that structurally populists may have their moment, it is not deterministic.
You know what? And you can see, I'm being fair. Let's be fair. We're actually seeing this phenomenon also in the Philippines on the local level. Hopefully, it will bleed into national. Of course, an example very close to my heart, a little plugging here, of course, is Mayor Joy Belmonte of Quezon City. Great example. I mean, she's not exactly somebody you would think is a populist or is an idol or somebody obviously growing up as a Belmonte, a Go Belmonte for that matter, obviously did not grow up through poverty or hardship, can't really relate. She went to very good exclusive schools, and yet look at the momentum she's doing in Quezon City. So on the local level, we're seeing this phenomenon. Why? Because what's happening is slowly people are looking for solutions rather than distractions. In the Philippines, sadly, in the national level, we're still in the distraction stage. For our national candidates, and this is sad, we don't want them to provide solutions. We want them to provide distractions for us. On the local, however, we're seeing a trend. It started in 2016, wherein local candidates, the electorate are saying, sino ba yung kandidato makakaayos ng poso? Sino ba yung kandidato makakapagsemento ng daan? So hopefully this we'll see it in our lifetime, my friend. You and I can cross
Yeah,
our fingers.
it's happening, right? Whether it's Iloilo, it's Baguio, of course, our good friend Mayor Magalong, among others. I mean, they're all making waves, right? Again, we can
Great
have a long
example.
conversation that Belmonte is not perfect, Magalong is not perfect. Yeah, wow, whatever. But they're doing pretty fine. And
They're
Vico
doing pretty
Soto
good.
and Magalong, all of this kind of mayor for good governance, it's getting traction. It's good news. It's great news. You're right. Because it's a local level. kung pa-cute ka lang, ang usapan dito whether may tubig ka or hindi. Or I mean, there's no
Ano,
room for mambo jumbo. It's really about getting the person right. Otherwise, kawawa kayo for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years, di ba? So because of the immediacy of the governance consequences, medyo siguro mas responsable ang tao and they're willing to really, to hedge their bets and not jump onto things. So what do you think was the mistake of the opposition? Why is the opposition in the Philippines? Okay, I don't want to call it. Why are the liberal anti-populist forces, with the exception of I don't know Rizzo Antiverse, we can discuss a little bit later on after Sarah. Why have they been so woefully unsuccessful in winning over the voters, or at least making a dent? It's not even close if you look at some of the races.
okay, the main, I mean,
Again,
there's
from a PR standpoint, I mean, this is not a
there's
political science discussion. Just to be clear with folks here.
yeah, there is a multi-headed hydra we're looking at, but the main, from a PR standpoint, the main fault of the Liberal Party is that instead of the rule in PR, the rule in persuasion, my discipline is do not try to elevate your market to where you are. Go to where they are. Go to where they are.
Them at where they are. Something Hillary said something like that after she lost, right?
Meet
You have to meet
them
voters
where
where
they
they
are.
are. Ang ganda nung sinabi ni Hillary. Yeah, exactly.
Meet them where they are. In fact, that was a very fantastic quote from Hillary Clinton, no? And yun ang folly. That was the major flaw of the Liberal Party.
So you cannot
Number
say, let
two,
me educate you.
have you tried that? Have you tried that, Richard? How did that work out for you?
I'm too tired teaching in school, so I don't do that outside.
So that in fact encapsulated by that one very famous phrase, let me educate you.
In my city, in Baguio, you know how mayabang we are, taga Baguio? Especially with taga Babacar, Manila, there's no way you can get away with that. Nagwala yung mga kababayan ko eh.
You're gonna get kicked down Cannon Road. Are, di ba? Let me educate you. Ito na yung mga, mga itak. Maglalabasan ng itak yan. So that's exactly what happened. No? And the second folly of the Liberal Party is that they did not stick to what we call hot button gut issues. They did not stick to the hot button issues. What are these? In the Philippines, it can be neatly summed up in the acronym HELPS. Yun lang, HELPS. If you're talking about anything apart from HELPS, people will not listen to you. What is HELPS? H is health, education, livelihood, peace and order, social services. Yun lang. Don't talk about sovereignty. Don't talk about karangalan. Don't talk about honesty in governance. Hindi uso. It was uso before. It had its
During
time.
when Pinoy won against Arroyo, it
Absolutely.
was a big issue, corruption, but no more now. Yeah.
Wala. Ano na, that's in fact we call that OAP, no? Order of Attribute Preference. This is studied. For guys like me, that's our Bible, Order of Attribute Preference, because for us to allow our candidates or our clients to win, we have to know what the guys want. So, you think of candidates like again, a dear friend of mine, Senator Lauren, di ba? She found that out real fast when she was talking about the environment. Environment, let's be sustainable. Kalikasan, let's save that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's a fantastic thing. But it did not resonate with the voters. She learned her lesson and then she went back to livelihood, medium, small enterprises, etc., women's rights.
You can
So,
smuggle your advocacies. I think there's nothing wrong, but you have to have meron kang hook, di ba? Na relatable.
interesting choice of words.
Yeah.
Very nuanced talaga si Prof. Richard. Smuggle your message. Yeah, that's mine now, brother. I'm using that one now.
No, I always believe in smuggling.
Yeah, steal
Not
that now,
that kind,
brother.
but communicative smuggling. Gawain ko na parang I'll talk this and that, and then I'll put something there. Oh wow, that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, that's how we get away with doing good things in a problematic situation.
That's actually our definition of public relations in my company. PR is getting other people to talk about you. Good PR is getting people to talk about you in a sneaky way. In a sneaky way.
So
Yeah.
this smuggling is a very magaling na tayo sa smuggling business. Alan, now let's go to the more contemporary issues, and I also want to get your advice. Again, obviously you're still gonna have your business on the side for more specifics, but just the big picture. Una, okay. Whew. Um, so do we have really a showbiz culture? How bad is it? I mean, because the Kaloy thing, I know you discussed already sa kabilang channel with my friend Christian on this, but I really want to get your 2 cents also on this. To what degree should we navigate around this showbiz culture in the Philippines without losing sight of core advocacies or policy-oriented issue? Obviously, I understand you cannot be wonky and all. It's not going to work in the Philippines. I know it. I work in media and all. I'm a wonk too. So I always realize you have to smuggle things in one way or another. But
Right.
how? But what is the showbiz culture and how to navigate around it and probably push the boundaries?
You know what? I'm going to just dovetail back to your original point. And wow, this is the word du jour tonight, smuggling the message. Siguro the best example I can use is you yourself, no? So yung mga tagapagkinig mo, makikita nila, uy, sino to? Puging. Uy, kita yung chest hairs, nakabukas ng konti yung nakabukas ng konti yung butones ng polo, di ba?
This was the Argentina vibe songs, my friend. You know, hindi, may
Oh,
ka ngayon.
macho, macho. So makikinig sila. And then that might have been the initial hook. But then listening to you after 10, 15 minutes, they realize, holy cow, this guy's, sorry to use the term, no? This guy's not just a pretty face pala. Mautak pala to. Ang dami ko natututunan dito. So if our showbiz culture should be, can be pivoted towards that, wherein you initially capture them through the glitz and the glamour and then put some substance under it. Holy cow, what a wonderful world we will live in.
So medyo thirst trap and then something better than thirst trap
Alam mo,
and
ang galing,
start.
alam mo, ang galing mo mag-summarize eh. Ba ang
I'm
sinasabi
gonna
ko?
get
Pero
into trouble, my friend. I
oh,
think
hindi,
I was
nakukuha
supposed
ko
to be
eh.
a PR guy. We're gonna be. We have to work more in the future. No. I always
First trap.
felt. Yeah, let's.
Perfect,
Yeah,
perfect term.
you need thirst trap also in discussions and politics and all. Kami kasi we had to explain on clause and international law in a I don't know whatever way. So I realized there you should make it sexy if for the lack of better.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Sexify the
exactly.
message.
Yeah, smuggling it's part of that. So, let's talk about this. As you said, nevertheless, hindi naman invincible ang mga populists and all of that. And we see this with Sara Duterte. Now, just to be clear, I never underestimated the Dutertes. I think they really touched. They have their hands on the pulse of the Filipino people. There's something about them that really resonates. But nevertheless, especially Sarah. I think Sarah doesn't have her father's dexterity, wit, yung spontaneity that her father had. And by the way, we saw only the older version of Digong. When I was in Davao, I talked to some good friends who are very critical of Digong, but said, alam mo, gusto ko siya nung bata siya, kahit inis na inis ako sa kanya. Magaling eh. Mautak, ang dami niya. So I met many people who met him in his earlier years, you know, when he was 40s, 50s, and they were very impressed with this guy. He was a natural politician. I even heard ang idol niya was Ninoy Aquino, who
Wow.
wants this extra. Yeah, look at Ninoy, right? One day could meet the communist leader, the next day he's talking to the US ambassador. That range, right? Remember,
And
Napoleon
no,
said
they
something like
never had any inflections when he talks. My God, can talk about any subject matter under the sun.
Ninoy, exactly. So idol niya talaga si Ninoy, interestingly, not si Marcos Sr., no? But Sarah just doesn't have it. And I don't know what's going on. So she lacks what her father has in terms of the dexterity and all of that. And let me be absolutely clear. This is not a sexist comment. This has nothing to do with that. We're just talking about her communicative skills among others. But she also keeps on making PR mistakes and all of that. So do you think it's complacency? What's going on? I mean, how do we explain 19 points drop? It's huge. It's huge. Most likely this has something to do with also yung flop niya. This whole, I don't know, was it a Swiftie concert? Was it just going out of the country? I mean, like, what was she thinking that she could get out of country and not do rebook and people just be okay with that? I mean, what's going on?
Okay. First to be fair to VP Sara, I mean, if you're comparing any politician in recent memory, probably of all time, to PRRD, you're absolutely right. That will be like singing after Streisand or singing after Sinatra, di ba? Kawawa ka pag ang basis of comparison mo, ang barometer mo si PRRD. He's a once in a generation politician. Of course, an example very close to my heart and my father's heart is Erap. We thought that Erap was it. Akala namin si Erap na yung pinaka bulletproof, pinaka
Teflon.
our
Oh.
Teflon, nothing will stick. Boy, did we we never thought we'd see a PRRD, no, Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Now on to the daughter. Number one, the transference is well, quantitatively, we attribute about a 9 to 12 point decline when it comes to approval transference automatically because you're not the person. So sa anak,
You're just a replication.
you're a replication. So that's inherent, built in yun. Secondly, the problem with, and again, wow, we really have to make these disclaimers now. I will use your same disclaimer. This is not by any way, shape, or form a commentary on her gender because of her gender. Nothing to do with that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just that the father, when he makes his witticisms, when he makes his off-the-cuff remarks, it's charming. It's viewed as charming. Now, when the daughter does it, it's viewed as impertinent. It's viewed as petulant, bratty, even. In fact, there's data that will support this. Well, obviously, in my discipline, we have quantitative data that will show in Filipino, the response was parang bata. Parang batang nagmamaktol was the insight. So petulant in the thing.
Nagra-rant lang siya, parang gano'n. Oh.
Parang pikon na bata. Parang unlike the dad, di ba? Pag may inupakan yung dad, galing. Di ba? Galing talaga ni PRRD, master strategist. Ito, pag yung anak nag-rant, ay, parang bata, bratty, so bratty. She didn't get what she wants and she's bratty. Now, having said that, what is the decline? You also have to attribute that to her alleged, supposed, presumed political opponents who actually found a hot button issue that they latched on and absolutely pressured her into a wall. This is China. Nakahanap sila ng ano di ba?
But you said, don't talk about sovereignty and all of that. So why is this issue resonant?
Kasi nakabit nila sa Pogo, nakabit nila sa nagkaroon, di ba?
Ang tawag ko dyan, nesting. Nesting.
Nesting,
Yung
correct.
nest. See, I mean, I'm a PR man.
Nakagawa sila ng nest, nilagyan nila ng mga golden eggs, di ba? Sinama nila yung mga Pogo. And again, Vice President Inday, because of her ideology, her whatever, for whatever reason, I can only guess, I can only venture a guess, never definitively said anything. So, naging anti-Pilipinas siya. Naging ganon. And then, of course, inupakan nila siya dun sa confidential fund issue. She was never able to explain. And finally, the biggest reason for the for the drop is whether it's 19 or 17, some survey firms will say it's 17, is, well, because she lost her golden goose. The golden goose that laid the golden egg was the DepEd. Yun yung channel niya para to reach
Yun yung
people.
platform niya. Yeah, exactly.
Yun yung platform niya. Dini-platform niya yung sarili niya. So, it's a perfect storm, a confluence of it's a cornucopia of events.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is really perfect storm talaga sa kanila yan, yeah. Concatenation, to be a little bit academic. No, I mean the term no, I mean the thing is yung tatay niya kasi sobrang galing niya in terms of, I mean, I noticed the skill of this guy, like in Malacanang once I saw him, pag bored yung audience, dun siya nagmumura. And ang suspicion namin ni Leloy Claudio, we developed this theory separately, was ginaya niya si General Luna. Na they somehow studied. Kasi kung pinanood mo yung mga mas batang pictures ni Digong from back in the day, nagmumura siya para in Bisaya or other terms. Hindi yung certain mura ni ginamit ni General Luna. So I felt this guy knows when to pause, parang stand-up comedian, when to throw the bomb, and he was already in his advanced age. I imagine if he were younger, he would be twice more dynamic. So you see, I recognize that talent in him. The other thing also with Digong is he could get away with his China stuff to a certain degree because minumura niya yung US leaders. Oh, macho siya with Putin. Do you know what I'm saying? So it was harder to pin him down as duwag. So, duwag na. US na nga na pinakamalakas na bansa, minumura lang niya. Trump na nga, Putin. Exact. You see, look at it. This big man, this big blonde man, Trump, Putin, all of them hugging him, respecting him. So I think he could get away with the China one in a kind of blah 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 lang niya. No. This is about peace and avoidance of war.
Remember,
Sara
yung
doesn't
basura
have that.
natin.
Yeah, exactly. Sara doesn't have that. She's just So yun ang napansin ko, wala siyang ganun eh. Wala siyang lusot eh. Wala siyang exit ramp. And Digong had that exit ramp eh. So kaya delikado talaga siya if she were just gonna do her tatay way of not criticizing China. When in fact, the situation even got worse, I would say, in recent years in terms of China's harassment. So again, we're just trying to explain to folks why, yes, she's also a Duterte. Yes, she has the solid South base and all of that. But her vulnerability, yung pagka-Teflon niya, hindi the same level. Diba? I
Not
wanted to
nearly.
I wanted to drop some names of brands. I won't go there, baka mapahamak na naman ako, di ba? You never know what you're gonna endorse, no? No, but kidding aside, now, what is Sarah getting wrong so far from your understanding? And then, well, let's be fair. What should she work on? Because we want to be fair. We're not here to bash one side and help the other side per se. No, what do you think she should really work on? Kasi
Okay.
medyo delikado na siya ngayon eh, let's be honest. Medyo alanganin siya. Wala na siyang platform. She's positioning as an opposition in very, very difficult condition. Her father is potentially going to face ICC. I mean, so much is going on.
Okay, my problem now for me, and I'm happy to speak about this. This is something I can talk about as a so-called core competence. The problem kasi with VP Inday right now is she's a tweener. In-betweener siya, 'di ba? In sports and in ano, you're fallen into that limbo of being a tweener. Are you Cuela? Are you Brusco? Are you shoot from the hip like your father? Or are you intellectual? Are you statesman-like? If you read her statements, ano siya eh, she's straddling eh. 'Di ba? She's going to make a commentary about the flood funds. She's going to make a commentary about the declining peace and order. Biglang somewhere in the statement, hihirit ng the leaders don't need cocaine and champagne.
Medyo sabog. I mean, medyo sabog. I think you didn't want to say it, but I think the technical term for that is sabog. Like
Sabog,
all over the
tweener.
place. She's all over the place.
Tweener, stick to one, di ba? Yung tinatawag nating TCA, Total Consistent Alignment. You knew what you were getting with PRRD. You knew. I mean, warts and all, it was going to be like your drunk uncle rambling, but he was on brand. The problem with VP Inday is she doesn't know. Does she want to engage in intellectual discourse? Does she want to do it like the style of her father? Tweener eh. Yun yung problema. Sabog.
Ako, Alan, to be fair to Sarah, I think kasang situation is she was also surprised by how quickly she got marginalized under Marcos Jr. Because ang understanding with the Sarah people is you got 6 years to build your own brand and get out of your father's shadow. So, just chill and all of that. And honestly, I don't think she had the ace team. No offense. Maybe this was a team that was great for her when she was Davao mayor and all of that. But I think they were not really prepared for this. Na they will be squeezed from all sides, di ba? Yung mga kalaban nila na komunista, yung mga kalaban nila na liberal, pati mga OG, mga Marcoses are also on the, like, lagot sila na yan, di ba? So, I mean, there are grammatical errors. I mean, like, and I don't want to be like that. I mean, I'm active on
Para
social.
nitpick.
I don't want to nitpick, pero parang it's not only sabog, it's like it just doesn't have the quality that you would expect from a national level official. No offense, and I don't mean this in a, I'm from probinsya too, so I'm not trying to sound in any way, and I'm not being defensive. I'm just saying she doesn't seem to have the right team, and she's not upgrading her team. I mean, pwede mo na kasi may time pa naman siya eh. Last time I checked, she's still the vice president. If she survives the next year or so, who knows? She's still the front runner for 2028. Baka bumaliktad pa yung inip ng hangin eh. So she's still perhaps has some time and she has to make that adjustment, but she's not making it, no? Mukhang stuck siya sa gear 1 lang eh.
Okay. Am I coming in? Is my
Yes,
audio
yes, yes. That's the
okay?
problem when it's conversation. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. The thing kasi with uh, let the record show to all our viewers, and the record will show that Alan Herman thought it, Richard Hedarian said it. So I thought it, my friend, but you said it. You said
May
it.
mind blend na nangyari.
You articulated it perfectly. There are levels to this game. There are levels to this game. You cannot take your, sorry to say, you cannot take your barangay basketball team and have them play in the big leagues. Iba to, my God. Yung confidential funds issue lang, let's examine that, no? When that was first hatched in Congress, when it was first brought to fore, talk about walking into a trap. I mean, honestly, saan ba nanggaling yung funds? Sa Office of the President, di ba? Tinanggap nila yon. So come on, that was, I mean, I don't want to make commentary, but perhaps a more seasoned team would have recognized that, ma'am, delikado tayo dito. Huwag natin tatanggapin yan. During the hearings, wow, presidential son himself, Senior Deputy Speaker and Floor Leader Sandro Marcos was the one who said, no more questions about these confidential funds, thus drawing attention. Tapos pinatayan ng mic yung mga yung mga kaliwa, which is never done in Congress, di ba? Pinatayan ng mic. So again, it was a perfect storm. They walked into that trap. And frankly, you're right. I don't think that she's surrounded by that. And no offense, because I know
Yeah,
some of
no
these,
offense.
I know
JC team,
some
ano
of
yun?
the team.
JV team ba yung tawag dyan? JV team? I won't call barangay. JV team ba tawag dyan? Yung medyo bench team.
Ano
No
side B,
offense.
side B.
Yeah. No offense, no offense. I mean, yeah, I mean, again, I'm just trying to understand this from Sarah's perspective. Where I give Sarah credit, no, is how she held it together from January nung minura-mura nung tatay niya si Presidente BBM until nung last month na nag-resign siya. That must have been 6 months of hell. Not to mention that month na pati First Lady lumabas at binanatan siya ng big time, di ba? So, I will give her credit for 6 months. She tried to, play both sides, di ba? Until wala na. Na-realize na boiling frog na lang siya. It's just a matter of time. They get all boiled if she stays, di ba? So, so I want to give her credit on that. I think hindi siya nagkalat kasi what was key to me is what will be her response after her father attacked BBM, right? Parang she tried to keep both as like, I respect my family, but I'm also loyal to the cabinet. Something like, she didn't articulate it as well, but I think the sensibility was sent across. So I want to give credit actually to her team. I think they handled it to the best of, it was the best possible thing they could do. But yun nga, hindi nila na-sustain, and to sustain that and level, kasi ang basa ko dito, she wants to present herself as a victim na biniktima sila. Kasi ito yung rhetoric narrative nila, if you listen to their vloggers and all, if you bother, my goodness. But that's their narrative na silang, wow,
Paborito mo. Paborito mo, Richard.
mukhang mababa na naman itong mga to. Pero you know what I'm saying?
Yan yung mga araw-araw, inahamo ka sa debate.
Ito mga kaibigan natin, tulog na ako, huwag na patulan to. So, these are interesting moments we're living in. So, I just wanted to be fair to Sarah. And I think she did pretty decently from January to at least April, May. And then, I think at some point they couldn't really. But I was just shocked on dun sa time ng flooding. Bakit ganon? Sobrang sabla yung response sila. I mean, pwede naman sila mag-rebook lang. I mean, they could have come up with a better excuse, di ba? Kaya nga may
Correct.
conspiracy theory na baka dahil sa ISIS, hindi na sila maka-abroad. Ito na yung huling El Bimbo nila sa Germany, di ba? Kasi, you know what I'm saying? I met Chancellor Scholz of Germany earlier this year and he was adamant we have to go with ICC kasi, it's close to his heart. He comes from Hamburg, etc. So, the joke kind of is like, baka naman akala ito na yung huling Europe trip nila if ever. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so unbelievable na hindi nila ma-rebook yan. Kasi the day before, I just arrived from Spain. Already the rain was bad. I was about to fly to Cebu the next day. I did it with 12-hour delay. So I was saying, di-rebook mo na lang, di ba? You're the vice president, for heaven's sake, di ba? I mean,
again, no, these are real weird miscalculations, and I'm not even going to go into her rant against the PNP leadership, di ba? Against Chief PNP
first
Martir.
name basis. Tawagin ka first name basis. Hoy, Alan! Bakit mo tinanggalan? Hoy,
Neil
Alan!
Ray. Labo di ba? Doon talaga, napakamot ako. Parang, who is doing the copy? And it's the tweener thing I don't wanna attribute the word, but God bless you, VP Inday, but really the word is sometimes it's cringy. Now, having said that, I think her heart is in the right place, and let's not forget, lamang pa rin to. Yes, there is a drop, but let's not forget, in terms of reasons to believe, she got more votes than PBBM last election. Heck, she was leading the presidential survey all the way until she
Oh,
decided to
yeah.
slide down to
And I
vice.
was there in their meeting, the Avance. So I went to two meeting de avance on that day. So I'll tell you what, that's how crazy I was. I wore violet. I thought it's in between pink and red, but nabash-bash ako sabi. I'll tell you what, Alan, nung lumabas si Sarah sa stage, yung level ng explosion of enthusiasm was,
Iba.
no offense to my kababayan, to my fellow Ilocano, nowhere close. Sarah was the star of the show. She was the princess of the show. I saw that with my own eyes. Even though this was supposed to be BBM's show, Sarah was the star. So,
Iba.
iba talaga si Sarah. So I'll never underestimate her. So I'm just shocked at how, they're shooting themselves in the foot, but never underestimate Sarah, obviously.
Hers to lose eh. The momentum
You're
is
right.
hers to lose eh. She's again eroding and shooting herself in the foot as it were, but I would absolutely support you in that estimation that you should never count the Duterte out because
Is still
holy
a force
cow.
to reckon with, right? But obviously the Tulfos are doing very well right now. I think they're the biggest winner of Philippine politics. And we've been talking about this for quite some time. In fact, para sa akin, belated pa yan eh. Nung sumikat si Digong, sabi ko, wait na, parang may kilala ko mga ganyan style, mga Tulfo, na minus the killing and EJ case and all of that. And Erwin, I've known him for quite some time. Rafi is my colleague in One News, is a good friend. So I know these people. Of course, I'm critical of them. I've criticized, I openly on the record, like, I'm the Tulfos. But they're juicing it. So Sarah has to be careful. But just one last point before we go to the last part of this. Alan, um, BBM. I'm quite surprised with what's happening with the communications of the BBM camp, in a sense that I think they won the elections with poetry. They did it well. I mean, in terms of all of the, but their prose is not as aggressive and I would have expected to be. Medyo nakukulangan ako, nakakapos ako. Is it because perhaps they thought Paul Soriano would be there in the Paul? Like, wala silang, that kind of organizing principle. And BBM is not Duterte. He doesn't do fireside chat. He doesn't do the spontaneous show. Medyo stiff yung communications nila, which is good for foreign policy, statesmanship. Great. I know that for a fact. But for domestics, parang feeling ko hindi pa ganun ka-flexible. Is masyado bang stiff statesman-like? I mean, now we're complaining in the other direction. Ang BBM administration. Are you surprised na parang wala silang masyadong bloggers and troll farms online? Parang bugbog sarado si BBM dun sa ibang bloggers, wala masyadong pushback eh.
Okay, first before I comment on that, I will tell you the weirdest story I've ever. Talagang tawa ako ng tawa nung araw na yon. A friend of mine sent me a Viber picture or through a picture through Viber. Tapos sabi nila, "Oy, si Richard Heydarian, ano na pala? Inappoint na sa cabinet." Tapos
Oh, shoot!
nakabilog yung mukha. Nung tinignan ko yung picture, sabi ko, gago, hindi si Heydarian yan, si Paul Soriano yan. Pinagkamalang ang Paul Soriano. But
How did that happen? Wait lang. May bigote naman ako dati ah. Like, well, I'll say
no.
it's a compliment to him rather than...
There you go. Okay, the thing, I think the overriding thing here, as far as I can tell, no, just from plain PR and communications lens, I think they're so conscious of people saying that he's trying to be like his dad.
So he's
Yun
locked in by that. So the
yeah.
EDSA is locking him in. Tama yung sinabi ng friend ko eh. EDSA is working.
Sasabihin,
Hit ng konti
sasabihin
si
ng mga
Mark.
tao, ano to eh, Shopee version to ni FM Senior eh. Ano to eh, Wish version ni FM Senior. Yeah, if he tries to be a strong man, if he tries to like have that bluster and fiery, although that last song was pretty good, man. I gotta tell
Very
you.
good song. I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that, Alan. It was a very good song. I was just in the airport
Let's
from
go. Yeah.
Barcelona flying out. Flawless. I mean, can you imagine Riza Hontiveros standing ovation with the Ferdinand Marcos Jr. there? I'm not trying to, besmirch your question. I'm just saying it's just insane. I saw that dun sa post ni Sherwin, who's a good friend, and Sherwin was like, wait, is that Riza? It was really good speech. Lalo on Pogo, on West Philippine Sea. Wow.
Sa
Great
start
guys.
pa lang.
Great pros. Great pros.
And then, I mean, just the way they set the predicate, he walked out alone. He had no military escort because I'm quietly confident. We are ruled by civilians, so wala akong military beside me. No handshaking, no fist pumping because this is all business. So great sauna, great sauna. having said that, no, but I think
Pero yun
he's
nga bro.
limited.
Sona is again that statesman formal. What my sense is, it is kind of like, you know, yung mga sidekicks, yung mga blogging, yung mga ganun. Dun sa more fluid space. So I think his speech was great in Australian Parliament. I think he gave a good speech practically in every foreign visit he had, from World Economic Forum onwards. So wala akong issue dyan. Ako more is like the online wars eh. Kaya weirdly,
Yeah.
yung mga katulad namin na hindi naman pro-BBM na criticize sa kanya dahil galit kami kay Digong for some reason. Parang kami na lang, we're doing the pushback eh. Na at least this guy is good on West Philippines. At least he's doing the right thing on foreign policy. So parang, I just felt nakapusan ako. But you're right. The EDSA structured seems. So he's very careful. But you're right. I rather have a BBM who's careful than a BBM which is not careful and like too much.
Exactly. You know, it's you have to look at kasi 'di ba apat yan, man, message, machinery, and money. The man himself is, you know, he's conflict averse. The favorite term of our friend Secretary and soon to be Senator Ronald Llamas, 'di ba? Conflict averse daw yan si BBM, 'di ba?
0.6%.
A 0.6 guy. So ano siya, 'di ba? Conflict averse, he's really not that guy, but the thing is, that's why he needed Sara Duterte during his campaign. So ngayon, nawala yung veneer, yung halo ng Duterte charm sa Marcos, nasira yung unity team. So maybe that's what he's missing.
Last one, I want to say this kasi baka sabihin nila itong dalawa naman nag-a-apply na naman ng kliyente paparating ng elections. Let's talk about someone who's not running next year's elections but is being openly considered to maybe consider even the highest office, if not the second highest office. And this is the person that many people didn't see as having much chance in Philippine politics because we're more of a right-wing, center-right, conservative society. I'm talking about obviously Rizal Ontiveros.
Right.
You know, some people would like, come on, there's no way that a kind of a progressive, leftist, social democratic person. But who knows? I mean, she's doing very well, right? I mean, all of these hearings are blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster, from Kiboloy to Alice Go and all. Is this the woman meeting the moment situation?
Absolutely. She's experiencing what we call an inflection jump. This is again the moment coming and the moment being seized. But having said that, 25, 28, baka sa 28, baka pwedeng vice. I'm not
Pwedeng
sure about.
vice, but that's still high. That's still big.
No, yeah. So I'm not necessarily sure if Senator Risa, and I love Senator Risa. I'm a huge fan. But I'm not sure kung kaya niyang i-sustain yung mga inflection jumps ito until 28 to gun for the number for 01, maybe 02.
Too. Just last point on this. If you are progressive or liberal, or maybe a combination of two, let's just call them left liberal, ano yung mga kailangan mong gawin to succeed in this difficult era? Because as we just mentioned, the Tulfos are the biggest winner of the fight between Marcoses and Dutertes. So it's not like they're totally different brand. It's you know, we just like went from, I don't know, Hermes and Louis Vuitton to Chanel. I'm being nice, obviously. But how can, I don't know, an Italian brand come from nowhere? Let's just
You wanted to say you wanted to say nor
man, how
seasoning.
can I come in?
You wanted to say nor seasoning to Maggi Sabor. That's what you wanted to say. But
You said it better than me. I put myself in trouble.
alam mo, lahat ng popcorn sa SNR tsaka sa Landers naubos na, no? Because the Tulfos have bought all the popcorn. Because they're just sitting down and boy, are they enjoying this fight. It's a Mexican standoff. My enemies are shooting themselves in the face. When these two are dead, I'm gonna rise. But, you know, okay, going back to your question, how does ano yung term mo? Left of
Left
center?
liberal, let's say something like Lenya or Risa or something along those lines, and how can they navigate and carve space for them? I mean, I can already think of Grace Po, no, who's not necessarily populist, although she has the Poe effect. But I think she's much more liberal leaning in terms of her stance. So she's number one in some of the Pulse Asia survey, I'm saying. But let's say if not Grace, but someone else who wants to kind of more Lenny, Risa-ish, but you know, how did I mean? It's tough. I mean, the Tulfos are coming up. Those two are still in the game. I mean,
Okay, the first step is wag parating kontra. Don't make your platform always kontra. Kasi that's the stereotype. That's a knock on them. Kahit anong gawin ng administrasyon, kontra, 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 kontra. So wag parating kontra. Applaud the wins sometimes. and criticize what needs to be criticized, but applaud the wins also sometimes. And sadly, of course, I'm a PR guy. This is so painful for me to say. Sometimes ride on the wins. Sumakay ka rin minsan. 'Di ba? May konting epal eh. And I know that this is something that the left liberals, as you term them, hate with a passion, that epal politics. But you gotta play the game, brother. That's the music. That's the music of our electorate. You gotta play the game. You gotta
So
dance the
super last point ito. So what is a ethical PR? If I can put it that way, like I like PR. It's something that I kind of do in my own little way. But and I think both of us, our heart is in the place of we want a better democracy, a better country, aside from our own personal careers. And I think, whatever happens, thank God, we'll do something about it. But the point is, how can we do ethical PR in this era? And I want to end where I started. Margaret Thatcher loved Evita. And apparently what she said after watching first Evita, she said to her, and lumabas yung letter na yan later on, dun sa kanyang communication secretary, that the guy behind yung, I think, first version of The Office, yung English. But anyway, these are like communications gurus, right? And she said something like, my goodness, look at Evita. She was able to achieve all of these things, these Perons, these Argentinians, without any real ideology. Imagine what can you do if you have a real ideology and have their communication skills, because obviously she was dismissive of Argentina, but she believed that she had this kind of that Thatcherite ideology of privatization and all of that. So napaisip din ako doon. It's like, yeah, so you're right. You have to write them, but how do you do it? Although I'm the opposite side of Margaret Thatcher ideologically, but I think she had a point. How do you use the Evita charisma and populism and all of these things you're talking about, but channel it in the right direction?
Well, again, no, ethically, what you should do is you should, within the bounds of your office and within the bounds of what is legally allowable, sadly, kailangan kang mamigay eh. Kailangan ka talagang mamigay ng assistance, mamigay ng mga care packs. It has to be done, my friend, sadly. So, you know what it is? It's yung sinabi ni Margaret Thatcher, imagine if you had actual substance and brought it to communication. So
The
nag-full
style.
circle tayo
You
dun
bring
sa ano.
substance and style together. Oh, mama.
But this is what I'm going to now term. And by the way, I'm going to copyright this term first thing Monday. This is now what we are going to call the Haydarian thirst trap.
Mapapahamak talaga tayo dyan. But since it's Olympics period, I mean, ang dami mga thirst trap nangyari. Might as well.
Oh, yan. Diba? You reel them in. You reel them in with the optics, and then you deliver the knockout punch. Diba? You dazzle them with your charm, and then you knock them out with the brilliance. So yun.
That's absolutely good point. So medyo umepal here and there, but the epal with the heart. Epal with the heart. Thank you so much, Alan. I was thinking about doing two things. I said, why not let's just focus on one issue and go deep, or we discuss many issues and hopefully in the future we'll come back. And eventually I said it on the second one. I felt, there's so much more here. Maybe the rest should be off the record. I'm sure there are things you'd rather discuss off the record. But again, I just want to remind for our audience here on Twitter, which is quite a diverse audience or audience. Hindi ko naman na-on yung TikTok, nakalimutan ko na. On baka yung China, they might learn some tricks from us. Na libre. On YouTube and Facebook. Alan Herman, obviously the guru of PR, continuing the great legacy of his father. And good job for honoring the legacy of your dad. And thank you also for making sure na you're hindi ka lang yung our brand is crisis type of PR guy. You're doing it for the good gods. Yeah, exactly. And definitely this was a pleasure. Really enjoyed our discussion, our conversation. And then yeah, definitely looking forward to more discussions off the record, on the record, and more. Thank you so much, Alan. Is there something? How can people follow your thoughts and makano bang rates mo? Yung mga ganun nagtatanong mga tao. Makano bang rates mo? Mayroon akong tsahin na inaaway ko doon sa girlfriend ko.
Brother, first of all, the pleasure and the privilege is mine, no? Meron tayong kasabihan. If you enter the room and you're the smartest guy in the room, you've entered the wrong room. So that's why when I'm in the room with Richard Haydarian, I'm always in the right room. So really, really a wonderful chat. Always a pleasure to to chew the fat with you, my brother. The name of my company is Agents International. Here's the weird thing about us. And by way of having a last point, we actually do not advertise. We don't have a website. We have no social media presence because we believe in client at center stage. Medyo Italiano kami, Italiano. If you've reached us, if you've found us, if you've come to our door, that means somebody who knew someone led you to us. So all the roads will lead to you
Nah,
anyway.
you do that. I mean, this was more like Rolex or something like. Oh, we don't do advertisement because the people who watch TV are not our clientele. Yung mga ang grabing snob. Although nakita ko sa Formula 1, speaking of Grand Prix, uy,
So
okay,
yun yun.
that's mo.
Oh, hindi kami alamat. Hindi kami talaga nag-advertise. Wala kaming website. A lot of people wonder kasi number one, we believe in client at center
Yeah,
stage.
exactly.
You know that if people are aware that there's a PR agency behind it, then that's not good PR. Because you gotta be sneaky, man. You gotta smuggle it.
That's it. Thirst trap for the win. Maraming salamat, Alan. Mabuhay ka and looking forward to catching up in person and maybe also off the record as well as on the record.
Richard, it was a pleasure. I'll see you soon. And thank you to all of our listeners. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. Mabuhay ang atletang Pilipinas. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you, amigo. Grazie mille.
Thank you, brother.